house transforms into a home when it resonates with laughter, echoes of footsteps, and the tapestry of memories woven within its walls. Yet my home, it had transformed into a serene sanctuary, excessively silent, the sort of silence that offers no comfort, instead bearing down on you like a heavy burden. I am 38 years old, a full-time homemaker, a term that delicately veils the reality of my days spent in the rhythm of cooking, cleaning, and often fading into the background. Our home stands proudly across 2 stories, nestled within the serene embrace of suburban existence. Trees gracefully framing the streets, neighbors offering friendly waves yet never delving into inquiries. A realm where quietude is not a cause for concern. It is anticipated. My husband Richard possesses a remarkable presence. Chief Executive Officer, authoritative, forever commanding the situation. He delivers, covers the expenses, appears striking in photographs. Yet, in the realm of the small moments, a gentle touch, a fleeting glance, a simple "how was your day?" he has been missing for years. In terms of emotion, his presence is absent. Next, we have Luke. He is the son that Richard has taken in as his own. At the age of 20, Richard welcomed him into his life when he was merely a child from the orphanage. Luke remains silent, contemplative, consistently courteous. He often retreats into his own world, surrounded by his room, his books, and the comforting embrace of his headphones. Yet he observes the details. Recently, he has become the sole person who truly perceives my essence. On most evenings, it's merely the 2 of us seated at the dinner table. Richard is either toiling away into the night or sequestered in his home office. The soft clatter of silverware, the rhythmic ticking of the clock on the wall. At times, I find myself pondering whether Luke perceives the silence in the same manner that I do. Not merely as background noise, yet it occupies the space as if it were an additional being. A silent presence within our fractured little family. A peculiar sorrow accompanies the experience of existence as one gradually fades away. I'm not referring to death. I mean diminishing. There was a time when I felt a sense of significance, as if I were a person deserving of attention, connection, and shared joy. Yet here I am, feeling like mere background noise in the narrative of my own existence. Like the wallpaper in a room that fades into the background, people ceased to take notice. It unfolded gradually. The pace was languid, nuanced. Initially, it was merely small gestures. Richard neglecting to bid farewell in the mornings, absent from dinners without a word, severing dialogues with a mere gesture, accompanied by the weariness reflected in his gaze. Then emerged the tone in his voice, cutting, brief, and dismissive, with taking the place of warmth. After a whole day, this is the dinner you prepared? Perhaps if you devoted less time to television, the laundry wouldn't accumulate so much. He never laid a hand on me. I have never strayed, to the best of my knowledge. Yet he inflicted pain upon me through his absence and his words, in manners that left no visible marks. Yet, the scars I bear remain unspoken. I sacrificed it all for this existence, vocation, freedom, the version of myself that once envisioned grand possibilities, laughed heartily, and entered spaces with an undeniable sense of belonging. Now I retreat into shadows, questioning each step I take, contemplating whether today might be the day he finally gazes my way and perceives something truly worthy of his attention. The memory of his touch eludes me, fading into the recesses of time. It truly resonated with me, not merely the fleeting touch of a hand or the customary kiss upon the cheek, yet a caress that whispers, "I still desire you. I continue to select you. I long for the feeling of being wanted, not for my physique, yet, in the absence of my presence, the core of my being, I long for the essence of femininity. This transcends the mere fading of a marital flame. It speaks of a spirit gradually losing its light. What could possibly be more disheartening? When light fades away, it goes unnoticed by all, until it has vanished entirely. It is often said that abuse wears many masks. At times, it manifests as a bruise. At times, it manifests as a profound silence. At times, it's a whisper that gradually erodes your resolve, piece by piece. Richard never laid a hand on me. He never lifted a finger. Should you inquire of anyone, they would undoubtedly affirm that he was a good man. He settled the accounts, I acquired a car for myself, maintained the illumination. He embodied the role of the dutiful husband with remarkable finesse. Yet what remained hidden from their view, the way he made me feel, left me with a lingering sense of inadequacy. Is this truly all there is for dinner? Have you really spent the entire day at home, and yet the living room remains in this state? Could you please remind me of the specifics of your daily activities? He never raised his voice, yet he found it unnecessary. His disappointment lingered in the atmosphere, heavy and suffocating like a dense fog. Regardless of my efforts, it seemed as though I was perpetually falling short of an unseen standard, as if love were bound by conditions, and I had already forfeited too many points to regain. Each morning, I found myself awakening with a silent apology echoing in my mind. Remember to remove the trash. Ensure the stove is thoroughly checked. Avoid that worn-out sweater. It's not to his liking. He never touched me, yet his words, they unraveled me gradually, until the contours of my former self became unrecognizable. I wished to think that he was merely fatigued, overwhelmed by the weight of it all. If only I exerted more effort, wore a brighter smile, and maintained an immaculate environment, perhaps he would return to me, the man I chose to share my life with. Yet he never returned. Instead, he scattered fragments of my essence in his wake. Each frigid gaze, each understated comment, in each fleeting instant, he opted for silence rather than the warmth of affection. A woman can be shattered without a single bruise. At times, it is merely a multitude of minuscule wounds that can make all the difference. And I found myself bleeding in places hidden from view. Luke was not my son, not through lineage, not through the annals of time. He was the child that Richard had embraced, welcomed into his life when he was merely a boy. When I wed Richard, Luke had already entered his teenage years, exhibiting a polite demeanor yet maintaining a certain distance. Our bond was distant. There existed neither the warmth of bedtime tales nor the glow of birthday candles exchanged. Merely a serene harmony, and that sufficed, until it ceased to be. He stood apart from Richard in every conceivable manner. Richard strode into rooms with an air of ownership. "Is that you, Luke?" He glided through the air, silent as a breath, gentle in tone, perceptive. He refrained from asking for space. He quietly filled the space, leaving no sound in his wake. Initially, he slipped under my radar, an essence woven into the fabric of the dinner table. Echoes of footsteps ascending the stairs, courteous inclinations of the head. "Good morning. I appreciate it. Pardon me," consistently courteous, perpetually immersed in his own realm. Yet, gradually, subtle shifts started to unfold. He would patiently wait for me to finish speaking before offering his response. How his eyes would gently soften when he inquired, "Are you okay?" Or how, in that fleeting moment when my gaze drifted, a blush crept in, stirred by the weight of a trivial remark I had just uttered. He remained silent. He simply absorbed the words. In his eyes, there lingered an enigmatic depth, profound silence, a glimpse that rendered me a little more visible. I found myself unaccustomed to such scrutiny. Not in recent times. Richard gazed past me. Luke, in some inexplicable way, gazed into the depths of my being. He always maintained his boundaries. I have never uttered anything out of line. Yet, his presence evolved into something I began to observe and then yearn. It felt akin to the gentle embrace of warmth in a once frigid home. Not a blaze, not fervor, the sort of warmth that allows you to inhale deeply once more. Perhaps that is the moment when everything began. Not with a mere touch, not a single word, simply the sensation of being acknowledged. Following years of gradual decline, the night unfolded like any other, draped in the familiar cloak of routine. On one of those tranquil evenings when the universe seems to hold its breath, when the clatter of dishes resonates as the most prominent sound within the home. The meal had concluded. As was his custom, Richard had withdrawn to his office, enveloped in silence. Luke lingered after the meal, offering his assistance to help me clear the table. He had a way of doing that time and again. It was never a matter of request. As I stood at the sink, water cascading over the bowl I was rinsing, as the memory of the petite dessert I had crafted earlier that day washed over me. It was nothing extravagant, merely a delightful blend of sweetness, softness, and creaminess. A soothing embrace contained within a delicate glass vessel. I retrieved it from the fridge and faced Luke. "Would you like to give it a try?" I inquired, extending a spoon that cradled a delicate scoop. He lifted his gaze, and in that instant, he averted his gaze from the spoon. He cast his gaze in my direction. A moment lingered, brief yet potent, causing my breath to falter. His gaze lingered on me, neither overwhelming nor unsuitable, yet unwavering. Intrigued. Unseal. It ought to have signified nothing. An uncomplicated proposal. A fleeting encounter amidst sweetness and gleaming metal. Yet, the atmosphere surrounding us transformed. I experienced it deeply, as if a whisper caressed the depths of my being. A delicate tremor coursed through my spine. In that fleeting moment, the world around me slipped away, and I lost track of my surroundings. Luke inclined his body just a touch, reaching for the spoon. His fingers brushed against mine, just a whisper of contact, yet sufficient to evoke a sense of awake, conscious, observed. He savored the dessert. Then, casting a glance in my direction, they offered a gentle smile. "It is quite satisfactory," he remarked. I inclined my head, attempting to conceal the flush that crept across my cheeks. "I'm pleased to hear that," I murmured. Yet within, a cacophony reigned. Reflections of my mind. The rhythm of my heartbeat. The moment dawned that an element, minute yet unchangeable, had recently transitioned. Yet I found myself unable to articulate it. Yet I sensed it, and I believe he felt the same way. The rain had been cascading down since the late afternoon hours. Lightweight, not untamed, just calm, gentle, like the essence that permeates all things, against barriers, delving into the depths of contemplation. Earlier, Richard had sent a text. "I find myself behind schedule. Please, don't hold your breath for my arrival." Comes as no shock. As I heated the water for tea, delicate tendrils of steam danced upward in gentle spirals. The kitchen lights cast a soft glow, stretching their elongated forms over the cool surface of the tile. The entire house seemed to be suspended in a moment of anticipation. As I poured honey into 2 mugs, Luke entered the room, his presence punctuating the moment. "It has a pleasant aroma," he remarked, his tone soft. I offered a smile, perhaps a touch too hastily. "Chamomile. It aids my slumber." "Not that it truly does," I remarked, a chuckle escaping my lips. He rested against the counter, his gaze fixed on me. And then, I found the words escaping my lips. "Gentle. Silence. Would you like to savor it?" He paused, caught in a fleeting moment of stillness. Unsurprised, clear and certain, simply remained still, as if the air had become dense between us. He advanced with measured intent. Gradually, intentionally, I remained still, failed to inhale. As he drew near enough to make contact, he refrained from reaching for the mug. Not a single word escaped his lips. Instead, he encircled me with his arms, from behind. A tender hug. "Take your time. There is no demand, only warmth." I remained motionless, caught in a moment of stillness. The cup in my hands quivers ever so slightly. He inclined his head, resting it gently against my shoulder. His breath brushed against me, palpable and intimate, unwavering, authentic, exceedingly authentic. And then, with the same quietude that marked his arrival, he released his grip, stepped back, re-established the space that once separated us. He averted his gaze as he spoke. "Sleep well." I remained silent, for the simple reason that I was unable to. A shift had occurred, not in the atmosphere, yet within us. There was no kiss. Silence prevails. "Please hold on for a moment." A bond that would remain unbroken between us. Sleep eluded me that night. Not even a moment. I found myself sprawled out, gazing up at the ceiling, reliving the moment repeatedly. The heaviness of Luke's arms, the gentle warmth of his breath brushed against my neck. The manner in which I remained unperturbed, did not step away, remained silent. Richard stood by my side, with his back turned as it so often is. Inhale, exhale, a rhythm that echoes softly in the distance. He slumbered as if the world around him remained untouched. Yet within me, all things possessed. I grasped the fringe of the blanket as if it could tether me to the person I once was. The lady who prepared the evening meal. Neatly arranged garments. She maintained her composure for the sake of the home, the union, the facade. Yet this evening, I no longer recognized her essence. I felt shattered, divided within myself, caught between the woman I aspired to become and the one who sensed a flutter in her heart as a younger man enveloped her in his embrace and instilled in her a sense of desire. I found myself pondering the same question repeatedly. Do I still embody the essence of a good woman, or have I unwittingly betrayed all that I held dear without even realizing it? No kiss had transpired. There are no whispers of allure. There shall be no clandestine gatherings or deceit. Yet my heart had ventured beyond the confines of reason. Perhaps that was even more troubling. How does one find the path to self-forgiveness for an event that never took place, yet transformed everything? I pivoted to confront the wall, curled into my own being, endeavoring to diminish the pain, the remorse, the uncertainty. The rain continued to descend from the heavens. Within me, a tempest raged, unseen by the world around. Luke underwent a transformation, not in an overt manner. He neither slammed doors nor completely avoided my presence. Yet, an imperceptible change had occurred. He ceased to linger in the kitchen after dinner, ceased to meet the gaze. I ceased to inquire about my well-being. As we crossed paths in the hallway, I noticed his pace quicken. His shoulders tensed with a sudden rigidity. It was as if my presence had become unsettling. I held no blame against him, not quite. He was in the bloom of youth, perplexed, and perhaps, just perhaps, fearful of the significance that moment held. Yet what about me? The hush transformed into a piercing cry. Then arrived the morning that will forever linger in my memory. As I meticulously folded the laundry upstairs, a murmur of voices drifted from Richard's office, capturing my attention. The door lingered on the brink of closure, teetering just shy of being fully shut. And from that narrow gap, Richard's voice reached my ears, steadfast, subdued, undeniably grave. Luke, stop for a moment. Avoid actions that might lead to my disappointment in you. That was the moment, none mentioned, without any context. Yet those words cut into me as if wielded by a sharp blade. Did Luke utter a word? Had Richard caught a glimpse of something? Was he aware? I remained motionless, a shirt held tightly against my heart. My heart raced with such intensity that I feared it might betray me. The echo of that sentence lingered in my mind for days on end. With each look Richard cast in my direction, I analyzed it meticulously. Did I detect a hint of suspicion in his gaze? Was he observing me with greater intensity? Or was it merely a figment of my imagination? And Luke, he hardly uttered a word to me anymore. His smiles had vanished. His presence lingered like a specter within the walls of the house. The chasm that lies between us, once vibrant and charged, had grown frigid and intolerable, and I existed in a constant state of dread regarding his potential words. And what may lie ahead? It unfolded gradually, piece by piece. This epiphany, this subtle reality that settled in like the dawn mist. I once believed that betrayal announced itself with a cacophony, clear as day, a collar marked by the vivid imprint of lipstick, a phone call in the stillness of the night, a falsehood ensnared in the midst of its utterance. Yet I possess a deeper understanding now. Betrayal often whispers softly. At times it softly murmurs. A single thought ignites the journey. A gaze lingered just a heartbeat beyond the ordinary. An emotion that lingers longer than it should. I never laid a hand on Luke in any manner that I couldn't justify. Not a single kiss was stolen. All doors stand open, yet my heart roamed freely, and that is a realization I have come to embrace. This is the starting point. I hold no resentment towards Luke. He was in the bloom of youth. Soft. He noticed me just as I was on the brink of erasing my own presence from memory. He managed to avoid any damage. He merely shed light on what was already fractured. And Richard, I no longer hold him accountable either. He remained the same as he had always been, engaged, remote, neither harsh nor cruel, yet perpetually absent. I crafted a life with the hope that he would join me on this journey, sharing the path we tread together. Yet I lingered far too long in anticipation. For far too long, I have been caught in the pursuit of proving my worth, serenely hushed, satisfactory to a degree, until I lost all sense of my own identity. On a crisp morning, I found myself gazing into the mirror, still clad in my nightgown. A soft glow caresses my features. Yet, the woman gazing back at me was a stranger. She appeared weary, not from tasks, but from shouldering the burden of the person she believed she needed to become. In that fleeting instant, I was aware it was never about Luke, or perhaps Richard. It revolved around my essence. And the moment had arrived. The moment has come to cease the waiting. It is time to embrace your full potential. It is time to seek out the version of myself that once held the conviction that I was worthy of more. The morning air hung heavy with a shroud of fog. The soft glow of pale light wrapped itself around the front steps, and the world appeared subdued, as if the volume had been turned down on all that surrounded me. With a gentle tug, I guided my suitcase toward the door. It lacked weight. The heaviest burdens I bore were not contained within any bags. Silence enveloped the house, a familiar companion in its stillness. Silence reigns, devoid of any footsteps. Silence reigns, with not a soul in motion. Richard departed at dawn. Luke lay in slumber, or perhaps feigning it. Goodbyes were unnecessary. With a moment's hesitation, I lingered before the door, contemplating what lay beyond. She turned, just slightly, to cast a fleeting glance at the kitchen. The expanse of that area, the moment everything transformed, where a spoonful of sweetness lingers and silence stretches into eternity, had uncovered a thread I hadn't realized was coming undone. I allowed the memory to take root, free from resentment, yet with a sense of acceptance. I held back my tears. I remained calm. The anticipated showdown never came to pass. There shall be no grand soliloquy, merely a woman deciding to turn away before she vanished completely. As I crossed the threshold into the open air, the world awaited me. I shut the door softly, sealing off the world beyond. Not with great volume, not gently, simply sufficient. I chose not to glance behind me, not due to any feelings of anger. Yet, it was simply because I had reached my limit. Some conclusions require no punctuation, only emptiness surrounds, and thus a decision was reached. My experience was straightforward. Preserve my essence. Before all that remains is emptiness. Have you ever found yourself standing before a door, contemplating the choice between remaining or departing? I trust you are aware, one is never truly solitary. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever turned away, not from a place of animosity, yet from the necessity to recall your true essence? Should this tale linger in your thoughts, subscribe for more authentic tales that whisper, yet softly share the truths we have all experienced. Until we meet again,